Hello and welcome to the Ruby and Roses channel. My name is Addie and I am the yarn dyer behind Ruby and Roses Yarn. And in today's video, I'm going to be blocking that blanket over there. It is a brand new design that is fresh off the needles and I am going to be wet blocking it. I know that everyone for the most part typically steam blocks really large projects because they can be really heavy and it can be difficult with all the water weight to deal with. So I'm gonna be kind of sharing some of my own tips and tricks that I will learn along the way, hopefully share with you the process of wet blocking a blanket because it is large, it is knit out of DK weight yarn, over 7 feet long. It's definitely a very, very big blanket. So I'm really excited to take you along on sort of this how to block a blanket vlog style video. Definitely some new territory for me, but I think it'll be really fun to try to wet block a blanket and see what happens. So yeah, let's get started because I'm so excited to block this blanket and I hope you enjoy following along. However, before I start this massive project, I am definitely going to need to make myself another cup of coffee because I need all the caffeine today as I begin. Take a few moments to explain a little bit more about the blanket that I'm going to be blocking. This is my traveler's blanket and it consists of 20-gram minis held together. So for instance, each section uses a total of two 20-gram minis on fingering weight held double to achieve DK weight. As you can see, this bright contrasting color is my Kana colorway that is striped throughout. It features luscious garter stitch as well as a little bit of those textured slip stitches to add some interest to the project, and it is all encompassed by this beautiful lace border. This lace border is also knit using 2 strands of fingering weight, and it just showcases all of the colors so beautifully and in my opinion ties it all together. So if you are interested in knitting this amazing blanket pattern for yourself, the link will be down below for those of you that would like to purchase it. It's available on Ravelry as well as in my own website shop for all of my patterns. As always, feel free to send me an email if you would like me to help you come up with a color palette for your very own traveler's blanket. I will also include links down below to my main contrasting color that is featured in this blanket, as well as all of the oodles and oodles of minis that are in the shop. The first order of business when you live in a really small apartment is to move all of the furniture out of the way so you can have a really large space to work with because, like I said, this blanket is going to be taking up a lot of space. I have all of my blocking materials gathered. I have all of the blocking mats that I own, some wool wash, brought in a few of my shawl blocking materials, as well as 2 really large bins to actually block the blanket in. For all of my hand knits, I wash everything in these bins. I got them on Amazon. I will link them down below. They are perfect for blocking, washing. It's pretty much the same process in my mind. I'm going to be hoping that my traveler's blanket fits in this, but if not, I guess we'll see what happens. But I'm going to be blocking in here, and then after it's finished soaking in the wool wash, I'm going to be putting it in my washing machine. Now don't panic, I'm going to only be using this spin cycle for the setting on the washing machine. So no agitation, just my spin cycle. After that, that's when I'm going to be putting it on my blocking mats and letting the magic begin. washing my own hand-dyed yarn, I always use cool water and I try to have very minimal agitation. I just think that that's the best way to care for your project because it's not, you know, putting it under a lot of stress. I also like to add my wool wash in a little bit later than I did just then for the video because otherwise you get a ton of suds, especially with the wool wash that I use. So yeah, I'm going to just like put my blanket in and hopefully it's going to be big enough. I didn't fill it all the way to the top because I'm definitely going to be cutting it a little bit close. Okay, here we go. I'm going to put it in, you guys. Oh, I'm nervous and I don't know why I'm nervous. Looks like it's gonna fit. Yay! Because you want to know what my backup plan was gonna be? I was going to try the bathtub if this didn't work because this is way bigger than my sink and everything else I have. So I am very happy that this worked because the other plan was going to be quite crazy. Luckily our sink has one of these features because this is going to come in very handy. But while that is soaking, I have set my timer for exactly 20 minutes, so I will be able to rinse it and then spin dry it. But in the meantime, I'm gonna be setting up my blocking mats and covering this entire floor. So I'm gonna be doing that as well as just getting my pins ready, maybe a few wires. We're just gonna kind of play that by ear. As you can see, and I've been trying to like clean it up as I go, but I am hopefully not running out of time here. I only have a total of 4 minutes left before I need to get this out, and I'm still working on getting all my blocking mats ready. You guys, I had a slight panic moment because I always measure my projects before I wet block them, because if I don't, then they can get stretched out like crazy, and I'm a very like I can block things a little to the extreme. So I was freaking out that I didn't measure before I started, but luckily I had the Google Doc of the Traveler's Blanket with me, so I was able to look at the measurements that it's supposed to be, and I gave those measurements like unblocked. I want it to be the same blocked, if that makes sense. I'm pretty much just blocking it to make sure that the lace is very flat when it's unblocked. So anyways, kind of crazy, but luckily I had that measurements. So back to putting more blocking mats on. Now here's my ingenious way of doing this. I tilted this over the sink so that whenever I push, it just sort of goes out that spout, since it is such a big blanket. It is so hard to squeeze all the water out. So I'm going to try to get all of these suds to go out of here. since I'm trying to get this rinsed. I'm going to dump all of this water out because I'm going to need to try to squeeze as much water out of this and put it in here so that I could take it into my washing machine and spin dryer. I wanted to show you how the watercolor is. So this is a bright pink backdrop, so keep in mind that the water is not this pigmented. That water is very clear for the most parts, considering that this is hundreds and hundreds of grams being washed for the very first time. I tried to get as much of the dye out as possible through the dyeing washing process at the studio. I've put it in my washing machine and I am super stressed, you guys. I hope that this works because it is looking very stretched at the moment. I'm hoping I can fix that through the blocking process. So I'm going to be trying to spin this out as much as possible. I have the drain and spin cycle on. So it just is showing the spin. And it adds just a little bit of water to it, which is fine because I have it on cool. And then it's going to drain it and spin it. Okay, you guys, I was so terrified when I pulled this out of the washing machine. I even had to take a quick break and call Devin, my husband, because I was like, should I pull it out of the washing machine? It's still spinning. And I was so stressed out. And he was like, well, I don't know. This is your expertise. So kind of funny. But you know what? I'm trying to not panic and just see if this works. Everything just seems to be bubbling up a lot, and the reason I'm so stressed out is because it is a lot less dense than it used to be. So I'm going to just try to pull myself together and just try my best to get this blocked. I'm just going to be putting my pins not on the I-cord edge because I find that to be noticeable. I'm putting my pins on the seam because if it's a little bit pointed or a little bit, too narrow, I don't think people will really notice that as like compared to the I-cord edge. So here we go. You know what? I might just do like one pin. I don't even know that you guys can see this. I'm so sorry. You guys, I am so stressed, like I said. I'm trying to do this. Let's see if this angle works a bit better. But I will zoom in into all of this after I finish it, so that you can kind of get a better idea of what I'm doing. Okay, that side could look a lot worse. So I started at about 56 and I'm now at 61 inches lengthwise, or widthwise, I mean. If that's even a word, I'm not sure.
I know you tried so hard. I know you've done your part. It's not fair. You did your time. How much longer will you suffer in this life? But don't give up. Just hold on tight. It'll be alright. All your life you've tried to be a good man inside. Did everything that you thought you should. Didn't seem to do you any good. I know you've tried so hard. I know you've done your part.
So this is what we have. After 30 minutes of me blocking it, I recorded about half of that time and then did the other half off camera. I hope that this will work. As you can see, the lace is a little bit frilly. It has a bit of positive ease to it, which I think looks really cute. I'm going to show you close up sort of how I blocked it. So I started with putting pins at pretty much each corner just like eyeballing it of where I think it's necessary. And then I also sort of fluffed out the border a little bit to sort of make these quote-unquote pockets. And after that, I, of course, pinned the corners. I also tried to scrunch up the blanket lengthwise as much as I could because, as you know, knitwear really wants to stretch this way. So that's a really big tip that I could give you to just try to make sure that it doesn't grow an insane amount. I also blocked it a few extra inches on the side. As you can see, this one has a little bit more pockets than the other one, which I'm a little bit nervous about, but I'm just trying to tell myself that adds to the handmade quality of the blanket. Also, since everything is a mess, you're probably wondering what these two skeins are for. I panicked partway through and decided to try to use a skein to sort of prop up some of those like frill sections, but it was way too much and way too aggressive, so I ended up not doing that. So that's why we have these skeins here. But I wanted to share what sort of blocking mats I'm using. So I use Knit Picks blocking mats. I think that they're the best. I will link them down below. I have so many different, so many boxes of them. As you can see, they're everywhere. But I wanted to make sure I had enough for this blanket, and I had just enough to finish it. So that's what I'm using. I'm also using just these regular blocking pins. I got them at a local yarn store when I first started knitting many years ago, and they're just very handy when blocking. They're just very delicate pins. I'm pretty sure these are for shawls, and I really like them because they're not, again, too aggressive. I just like to do light wet blocking if possible. So I survived. I hope that it works. At least it didn't grow any in length, which was my plan, and it did grow a little bit in width. And as you can see at the bottom here, this length is a little bit too long. It's sort of difficult to show, but you would have seen it in the overhead shot. But anyways, it grew a little bit more at the bottom portion of the width as opposed to the top. So I'm just gonna go with it. I've spent 30 minutes like trying to get everything to look right, but I guess at the end of the day, I am glad that I did it because I would have had to wash it at some point. I like to wash my hand knits pretty much once a year, depending on how often I wear it or how often I use it. So luckily I'm not gonna have to go through this process again, and if I ever washed it again, I would make sure to just buy a bigger bucket. I think that that would be my #1 tip, to make sure that you've got plenty of room to really make sure you know what is the width and what's the length, so you're not grabbing this wad of knitwear. If that makes sense. But yeah, that's the blanket. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and yeah, I will do a little clip tomorrow to show you what it looks like finished, because I know you're all dying to know. So it's finished, you guys. It looks so good. I love the way that the lace turned out. I worried for no reason, and the drape is just perfect on it. It is so big and just really, really comfy. Now it is time for pictures, and this pattern will be available by the time you're seeing this. I had so much fun designing it, and I hope you guys love knitting your own version. Please comment down below if you enjoyed this video, and be sure to check the description if you would like to purchase this pattern or yarn from my shop to knit it. And thank you guys so much for following along on my blocking journey, and until next time, bye.